Good morning, folks, and thank you for watching. If you can subscribe, please do. Buy me a coffee, usual stuff. All right, let's begin. You need a full explanation before I start this. This is a Substack from Australia, from a gentleman called Fraser Anderson. I put the link to the blog in my doobers as usual. You can go and have a look at it. Please do, and you make of this what you will. I'm going to be very careful about who I name in this particular reading, and I'm also going to be very careful about me commenting on it. Okay, so suffice to say, pin back your ears. Free speech in Australia, there's no chance. Imagine if I told you that I have proof beyond any reasonable doubt, this is Fraser speaking, that a man pretending to be a woman is a predatory stalker of women with a dossier that proves it. Now imagine if that man is a trusted paramedic. Next, imagine that that man has provided evidence in public that he has deliberately and actively abused his own child, quite possibly for his own sexual pleasure. Imagine that man says he is a woman. In Australia in 2023, you have to imagine these things, because not imagining will get you hounded, shamed and censored by an ideologically captured government agency. So although I can 100% prove all of my above imaginings, I cannot publicly state any of the above facts about Queensland paramedic for fear of being cancelled by the Australian Office of E-Safety, a very dubious and ideologically captured federal government agency run by an E-Safety commissioner. It is a damning indictment of the collapse of the Australian political and social landscape that this situation exists. And the situation he's talking about is a man who is using a chemically induced fluid that is eked from his breasts to feed a baby. Although I have prima facie evidence that this man keeps dossiers on women that he targets, I have to merely imagine, because even with watertight legal proof, he and his ilk are a protected species in the woke Australia. Their brand is dependent on the naive, the stupid, and the downright greedy politicians and bureaucrats to enforce the gaslighting of women through misogynistic hatred and downright lies. In the words of Václav Havel, the renowned Czech playwright and dissident, truth and love must prevail over lies and hatred. The principle of an individual's freedom of expression is the cornerstone of all human rights and freedoms. It underpins the right to know, to learn, to inquire, to question, and to challenge. These poignant words resonate strongly as we examine the current state of free speech in Australia and contemplate the peril that this current descent into the mass censorship of dissenting ideas poses to the long-term health of our society. Australia, which is historically celebrated being known for its democratic values and open society, has recently experienced a growing wave of restrictions on freedom of speech. Controversial subjects that demand open and honest discussion are being met with censorship, stifling the diversity of opinions and inhibiting progress. We recently learned a disturbing story in a world where personal stories are shared with the click of a button, an extraordinary claim by a Queensland male paramedic who poses as a woman. He makes the audacious claim that he breastfeeds his child, defying established scientific facts and raising serious ethical concerns. As experts and legal authorities should be wrestling with the issue of potential child abuse and the legal implications under Australian law, an unexpected twist emerged. This individual made their story public, but they're now attempting to shut down the debate through bogus claims of a right to privacy. We will examine the fundamental concept of free speech, the moral implications at stake, and the need for expert analysis of the issue. I'm going to abuse my child as a matter of privacy. We've heard that before. Where have I heard that before? Do you remember the case of the two guys that had adopted two boys? Where was that? In America somewhere, and abused them both. I mean, they're going to go to jail for the rest of their life. Not only did they abuse them, I think they shared them with other men, right? They abused them both, adopted them and abused them both, right? These two guys got together. And they were saying, it's our house, we can do what we like. And even when they were being talked to in prison, even though they're going to stay in prison for the rest of their lives, they were still saying, what am I going to do about this when I get out? Or this one? They had no concept that what they'd done was so morally repugnant that we were going to put you in a box for the rest of your life. This is what having no boundaries means. This is queer theory. One of the most important aspects of a healthy society is the ability to engage in meaningful and respectful dialogue, particularly when dealing with important and contentious issues. Such discussions allow for the exploration of various points of view, the challenge of prevailing norms, and the promotion of intellectual growth. However, as the space for open debate shrinks, we risk creating an environment in which dissent is silenced, critical thinking is stifled, and progress is stalled. This individual's decision to breastfeed as a male raises concerns about his child's safety by actively defying professional medical advice. Male lactation, according to medical experts, is biologically impossible. This individual rejects the scientific consensus, and deliberate rejection of professional advice calls into question their fitness as a parent. This blog goes on to discuss many many ideas, and I would please urge you to engage with it. It's well written, and it does raise questions that all of us need to be asking. It's this simple. Men don't breastfeed. If a man is breastfeeding a baby, there's something wrong. If a man thinks that the gunk that he's producing from his fake breasts, by the way, right? Okay, he's never going to have female breasts. The man's a faker. If he's feeding a baby by using a chemically induced lactation method, which isn't lactation at all, it's some sick thing, right? That should be a red flag the size of Nevada. Why isn't it a red flag the size of Nevada? That's a baby. That's a baby. I don't get it, right? So tied up in this as well, which is discussed in this great article from Fraser, is free speech. Nullified, squeezed, right? Okay. Censorship is, and always has been, a thin end of a very nasty wedge. You'll ask for censorship for the most extreme stuff, right? Which we've got. The law says this is wrong. This is wrong. And then they'll ask for a bit more, and a bit more, and a bit more, and a bit more. In the world we live in now, you have got to get your head around the fact, even though you might hold on to these thoughts and think, yes, we will one day get what we need. Censorship is dead. It is finished. Over and above that which breaches the law, where the police can take action. And the last thing you want to do is give any more power to anyone to censor anything that isn't already covered by the law. We've got this about right, okay? Because it will come for you. And that's the main point of that article from Australia. It will come for you, and it will stop you speaking, to the extent where they're not able to even raise concerns about a man with a fetish who thinks his fake boobs, induced by taking cross-sex hormones that he should never have been taking, and producing some kind of fluid that he thinks is milk, can't be questioned and isn't seen as a red flag for child protection. Right? If that's what your censorship gets you, you need to think twice about the fact that you think censorship is a good idea. It's never a good idea. Never. Okay? We don't want censorship. We don't need censorship. And yet, the British government are happily beavering away with their safety bill. It's for your safety. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. It's not the answer. Government isn't the answer to this. Conversation is. Government isn't the answer to this. Speech is. Government isn't the answer to this. Talking to each other is. We don't need an interfering, toxic parental form, in this case the government, telling us what we can and cannot speak about or do. Hate crime legislation's up there too. It's got to go. All of it. There's no such thing as hate speech in law. That's what we need. Of course it exists. People say hateful things all the time. Try being me. Right? People say hateful things all the time. All the time. But be very careful when you call for censorship of one thing, because trust me, it never ends there. And Australia is now seeing the effect of that, because they've got a body specifically set up to ensure that those who need to speak can't. And that's a world neither you nor I want to live in.